Hello, Gen Genies. It's me, Julie.
And Rich.
Before we get started today, we want to let you in on some exciting news. We have launched our new Patreon page for the podcast.
Woohoo! We are super excited about this new chapter for CutOff Genes.
So, Patreon is a website where listeners like you can pledge a small monthly amount. We're talking only $5 or $10, guys, to support the podcast and help defray the costs of bringing you the show each week.
To be clear, CutOff Genes will continue to be absolutely free. But to thank you for your support, we are going to offer our patrons some fun little extras.
Like early access to the podcast every week, where you'll get to hear the latest episode before it's released to the general public.
And why not make your friends jealous with exclusive patron-only CutOff Genes swag?
Fancy. And here's something you guys have been asking for, and I'm really looking forward to this. I'm going to host a monthly, hour-long, online Ask Me Anything session where patrons at the $10 level can literally ask me anything.
Anything? You're a brave woman, Julie.
You know, I know. I'm also going to give access to my blog, Are You My Father?, where I tell the story of my search, actually it's my life story basically, for my biological father in even more detail than I did on the podcast.
Wow, your blog was the original inspiration for CutOff Genes, wasn't it?
It was.
Wow. Well, all patrons at any level will receive a shout out on the podcast along with our undying gratitude for your support.
Yep. You guys know that this show is a labor of love for me. It's something I'm very passionate about. It'd mean so much to me if you would consider supporting our work here on the podcast by going to patreon.com/CutOff Genes podcast.
That's Patreon, patreon.com/CutOff Genes podcast.
We'll add a link to it on the podcast and on the Facebook page. Thank you all, my Gen Genies.
And now, on with the show.
Woo!
Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip hip hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In CutOff Genes.
Welcome to CutOff Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I am a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the co-host and producer of this podcast. How are you, Julie?
I am fine.
It's beautiful weather we're having today. It's almost like spring.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
I know, and it's February.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Oh, it'll be cool.
The trees are blooming and everything out here in Los Angeles.
Dropping things, and it's been windy.
I got hit. I was walking the dog, and I got hit on the head by some kind of acorn or something from...
An acorn. Do acorns grow in LA?
I don't know. I'm from Boston. Whatever hits me on the head, it's got to be an acorn.
Okay, so funny you should say acorn, because I have been looking into new crafts because
you're Julie.
That's what I do. And Craft Panic. By the way, Craft Panic, I'm doing so many by the ways. Craft Panic, which is what my husband calls when I suddenly have to make something and fast. And he calls it Craft Panic. What it actually is, I came to realize, is art therapy. It's art therapy. It's putting your feelings into making something.
Oh my God, Craft Panic for me is when I've run out of mayonnaise. Where's the Kraft mayonnaise? Crickets.
I just gave him a deadpan
Crickets.
look. Take my wife, please.
I'm going to have to put a laugh track on this, like they did on the sitcoms.
That's funny. Anyway, acorns. I found this new craft on Pinterest about, you take like the parts of the acorn, the little like head part, I guess.
Yes.
And you can put, I don't know why I started talking about this. I just realized it means
because
nothing.
you're very crafty.
Because that's me. But then I got onto this whole thing about where do I get acorns to just pick them up off the ground. But and of course I Googled, do acorns grow in California?
And do they?
Unclear. It's unclear.
Well, then what the hell hit me on the head today? What was some seed?
It might have been an acorn, but I did discover that I can actually buy acorns on Amazon. First of all, I have to start by thanking some of our new patrons.
Oh, yes, of course. We can't forget that.
Yeah. So a shout out to new patrons, William Long, Ava Smith, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, and Heather Kenny.
Thank you, guys. That is so nice of you to support us. We really appreciate it.
We really do. Guys, and also, if you have not received any swag in the mail yet, it's probably because you haven't given me your address. So remember when you sign up to send me a quick little message that has your address, and I will send you your goodies.
Because this is not a mind reading podcast where she can guess your address.
Would that it were.
Oh, God, would that it were.
Wait a minute. I could find them.
Oh, I know. You find everybody.
Wait a minute.
Anybody.
Wait, this could be a new game.
Uh-oh.
They just tell me who they are, and then I have to find them.
Yeah, well, you better confirm it's the right address in case, Joe Smith becomes a patron. Somebody with...
Oh, that would be a problem. So thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us. Also, I haven't gotten around to doing the Ask Me Anything yet because, A, I haven't figured out how to do it yet, and B, I can actually do it on Facebook. So we have a private face group, patron only.
Yes, a group in Facebook.
So that's
yes.
another thing, guys. And I can't automatically put you there if you're not a friend of mine personally. So look for it and ask to join, and I will recognize you at that point and let you in.
Yeah.
But eventually I'll be able to do the AMA there because you can do Facebook Live wherever you want.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so that way I can talk to anybody and you guys can ask me questions.
I've never done a Facebook Live. I've watched a few, and they're usually after the fact, not even live.
Yeah, they record, I guess, and then you can watch them later.
Which is also interesting if people can't actually be online at the time.
Yeah.
Although if no one's online, then no one's going to be able to ask you anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I was going to do one on Saturday, but I was like, nobody's going to be there.
No, but don't we have patrons?
It'll be bad for my ego.
Patrons in Australia.
We do.
So there's a time difference there.
Very much a time difference.
I mean, there's a time difference within the States, but with if we had
there's a 17-hour time difference
exactly.
from Australia. But I've actually spoken to a few of the Aussies, and we're probably going to have our own little special.
Oh, look at that!
AMA.
I want to talk to you right afterwards and see if you have an accent.
See if I picked up the dialect.
Yes. Do you like my new plant, Julie?
What's his name?
I don't give plants names. I never buy plants ever.
Where'd you get it?
Well, I went to a bee farm.
Of course you did.
Yesterday up in the North Valley because, as I wrote, the musical I wrote, Love Stings, takes place on a bee farm. So I thought it's about
Sting, right? And the police.
It is, who I just saw in the last ship, his show at the Amundsen Theater in Los Angeles. So
did you like it?
I thought there were some really great songs, great singers.
He didn't like it. Okay, moving on.
It was okay. It was okay. But I mean, it was definitely worth seeing.
Yeah,
let's say that.
I've heard.
And he was
mixed.
terrific.
Was he?
I'm a big fan. So anyway, but my show is called Love Stings, and it takes place on a bee farm.
Yes.
And so I went to this bee farm, and it was also a nursery. And so I felt like compelled to buy this cute little plant.
What kind of plant is it? It's stripy.
They called it like a rattlesnake plant or something.
Ooh, I don't like that.
But anyway, I don't know what it's called.
It has
but I
stripes, so I think we should name it something tigerish,
yes.
or zebra-ish.
Yeah. We never have anything living in this in my studio, so
except for us, and now this plant.
Barely.
I like it. I'll come up with a name, and we'll.
Yeah, I think we should. It should be DNA related. Maybe we should let our. Maybe we should have a little contest.
A poll, you guys. Give us a name for the plant.
Yeah.
I'm going to describe it. It's green.
No, you know what?
It has stripy leaves.
Let's take a picture of it and we'll put it on the Facebook page. And
okay.
then, and when you guys see this episode, you can name it.
Right. Good for you.
Yeah.
Also, by the time this drops, it'll be the week that I'm going to Roots Tech.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Are you excited about going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous.
Why?
I don't know, because crowds.
Yeah, I know. But you're going for something that you're really interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm easily overwhelmed.
Yeah.
As we all know. But there are a lot of listeners I already know are going that I'm going to meet up with. And guys, if you're going to be there, look for me. I'll be at the Birth Parent Finder booth, whatever that means.
This is Salt Lake City, right?
In Salt Lake. At the Salt Palace. Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
Come
in, Salt Lake. This is Nancy. That's all I know.
What is that?
That's from Airport 75. That was Karen Black.
Oh, Karen Black.
There's a plane crash in midair where like a small plane hits them and there's a hole on the side of the plane. And Karen Black.
She says this is Nancy?
Her name was Nancy. I just remember that.
I enjoyed that.
I think I might have told this on the podcast, and forgive me if I have, but one of my favorite Carol Burnett show spoofs when she was spoofing the airport movies that they did in the 70s. She was dressed as Norma Desmond, as Gloria Swanson. She's on the plane and she's sitting next to Max, her butler, with the bald guy. It's Harvey Korman. And when someone comes out and says, the plane is going to have to do a crash landing, she looks around and she calls for her stand-in.
Oh, Carol.
It's ridiculous, but it's funny, right?
It is.
Oh, my God.
It is.
I bet some people of a certain age will remember that sketch.
Of course.
And even if they're not a certain age, they might remember it because of that show.
YouTube it.
Carol Burnett and Friends has been around forever. Oh, yeah.
Precisely.
And YouTube. That newfangled YouTube.
All right, let's talk DNA.
Isn't it about time?
I don't think we're the only ones thinking that.
Probably not.
Yes. Okay, so actually today, Blaine Bettinger on Genetic Genealogy Tips and Techniques, which is a page that I frequent on Facebook. Blaine does a lot of polls, and he did one the other day. Let me see. And the question was, if you've tested a male's Y DNA, yourself or someone else, does that male have any Y DNA matches at any level with his surname other than people you asked/motivated to test? So that was the question.
All right.
Okay. And then the results came in, and he said, thank you, everyone that participated about why DNA matches with your surname. We received 2,334 responses. You can still participate, blah, blah, blah. While this is not a truly scientific analysis, the results make it very clear that it is not unusual to have no surname matches if you test a Y DNA line. More than half the responses had no surname matches, so don't freak out if you have no surname matches. So basically, the reason we do Y DNA tests is to look to see if our surname is correct, because the Y DNA goes from male to male to male to male.
Right.
And so theoretically, the male whose Y DNA you test should be his father's, and his father's before him and his father's, and they should have the same surname as males do.
Right.
But more than half don't.
Well, what does that mean then?
That just means there's MPEs in there, or people change their names. Or in my case, I did it. I had my cousin Sam do it, my cousin Sam Price. And because I knew that my third great-grandfather, Alexander Price, was from Norway. And Price is not a Norwegian name. So I had him do it. And guess what? All the names are Norwegian. Really? They're all Norwegian, almost all of them. However, there's not a common one among them. They're all different, but they're all Norwegian. Which, when you think about the way the Norwegian traditional naming systems, especially back then, it was all so and so's son and so and so's daughter. Right. So it would change with every generation. Like Olsen was Ole's son. Yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. So when you're testing a Y DNA to determine if your surname is correct, don't be surprised if it's not.
What I find interesting is that if I were to change my name, that I, without even thinking it, I could be screwing up genealogy people in the future, because they'd be looking for my name the new name and go, why is that not there?
Oh no, that's very common. Yeah. In fact, in my family and my husband's family, neither of us have an original name.
But this is going to sound sexist, but do men change their names that often? I mean, women have married names.
No, they don't. They don't. Usually it's for a different reason, like an NPE or something.
I see, yes.
In my husband's case, so my husband was born a Morris. His father was a Morris. And then later he took his stepfather's last name, which was Jackson. I see. Which was also a made-up name, by the way. That wasn't his real last name either. But also, come to find out that my husband's father was adopted.
Did he know that?
He found out later in life.
Okay. Through
a letter from a relative. Very strange. Wow. We originally had thought, I've talked about this before, we originally thought that that his father was his actual father, and that his mother had agreed to raise him as her own. And they did that thing where she like pretended to be pregnant.
Oh my God.
And they have a fake birth certificate. And I have a couple of cards that were sent to the hospital, new baby cards.
Yeah.
That were sent saying to his mother, saying, I'm so glad you're both well, as if they were in the hospital. They were never in the hospital. I mean, Dee was, my father-in-law was, but the person who gave birth to him was, but whoever the doctor was faked the birth certificate.
Wow. And, I love that you're covering your tracks and even sending like fake new baby cards.
They covered it. And so, we thought that whoever wrote the letter, and because the rumor is that the mother was somebody who was a boarder at their house that was possibly a nurse for the doctor.
Okay.
And so we thought it was the name that is on the card. On both of those cards, she sent 2 cards from 2 different addresses.
Oh, my God.
And so I have researched her. Her name is nowhere in the DNA either. So it's one of those brick walls that I don't know how I'm ever going to get past because
you need I don't know. I always call you Miss Marple, but this does sound like kind of a murder mystery. Like,
oh, it absolutely
where
is.
You're sending fake cards to addresses and things like that to cover your tracks.
Oh yeah, no, it was.
It's like you're trying to
huge.
you're trying to give yourself an alibi.
Yeah.
For the baby.
No, that's what they did.
Wow.
That's what they did. And so we thought that Dee's father was still his father because my brother-in-law really resembles his grandfather a lot. So we were sure that he was the father. So I found a cousin of Dee's, a first cousin of Dee's in Texas, of my father-in-law's in Texas, and asked him to DNA test. Doesn't match anybody. So he's not a Morris.
So wow.
Yeah, and we're stuck. This is the one that I told you that both my husband and his sister have tested, and all of their paternal matches are the name Midget or Midyet. And they're from North Carolina, Dare County, North Carolina, and there's hundreds of them, and it's crazy endogamous.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you really are. You've got your work cut out for you.
I mean, of all people, to have like something they can't solve.
I know, right?
It sucks.
But so, like, what could conceivably happen that would make it easier for you to solve?
A really close match.
Yeah.
Tests. Somebody answers some questions. We've tried reaching out to many of these matches. I mean, he has like second to third cousin matches that should be close. He has one that's like a first to second cousin match that is also adopted or that is adopted. So bye-bye. And there is a common name going through it. There's several common names, but every time I've tried to build a tree, the same name is repeated over and over again, and they're intermarrying and intermarrying. It's a nightmare. And
does your husband, is he as into this search as you are?
Oh, no.
I didn't think so.
I mean, he would like it solved.
Sure.
Absolutely. But,
it doesn't keep him up nights.
It does not. And it probably frustrates him that this is what I do 24/7, but I can't solve his case.
Right. Yeah.
That would really suck.
I know, right? You marry a genetic genealogist, and you can't even do your tree.
Yeah. It's a bummer. But so that's the story with the Y DNA.
I actually think your husband's story is more interesting than the Blaine Bettinger.
It is, but I've told it before. You just forgot about it.
I guess I have, or I just wasn't listening.
Dude, we're at episode 88.
No, this is 89.
Some things are going to be repeated.
Okay. Yeah. Like when I was telling that Airport 75 story, I'm like, did I tell this story in episode 22?
We should go back and count how many times Carol Burnett has been referenced. I Love Lucy. And the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. I probably should I feel like I haven't talked about the Brady Bunch in a while, so maybe I should do that. I follow Maureen McCormick, who played Marcia, on Twitter. And when I say follow, I don't mean I follow her around the neighborhood like a stalker, but she is the sweetest lady.
Does she have interesting things to say?
She's always very supportive, and then I just recently she posted a picture of her at some what was it? The Special Olympics, because her brother has Down syndrome, and
Okay.
I have a brother with
okay.
Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And so we share that in common. And I just thought, good for her for putting her money where her mouth is. And she's
Yeah.
there, lending her name and her support and, to a really great cause.
Right. Right.
And I love that.
I told you that my brother and sister-in-law are coming to visit me.
Yes.
At the end of March.
Yes.
And I got them an Airbnb. And you know where it is?
Where?
It's right around the corner from the Brady
Oh,
house.
cool.
I'm so excited.
That's so cool. And the Brady house looks even more like the Brady house now.
It literally is exactly the same house now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, how fun. Do they get the Brady Bunch down in Australia?
Oh, yes. I grew
Okay.
up watching
Did-
Brady
I
Bunch as
never
much
knew.
as you did.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what I remember, and this I always talk about this too, is that in the first season, it was all about a blended family, right? So each that's the whole song, right? This
Yep.
man met this woman.
Yeah.
They each had 3 kids, obviously from a previous marriage. And in the first season, they did a couple of episodes where that was an issue. And like Bobby was worried that he couldn't have a picture of his mother up, his birth mother. And they're like, oh no, you can always have that picture displayed. Because you never saw it again. They never talked about it.
Of course not.
And then in later episodes, they didn't talk about the fact that they were, a blended family at all.
Yeah, that's true.
It was like they completely forgot that. And
Yeah.
I just thought that was so strange. Like,
But they would talk about it in the opening number, though.
but that's it.
But that sets the whole thing up. Why do they need to talk about it anymore?
Yeah, there's an episode late, like one of the later seasons where I forget now, one of the boys does something and Carol, the mother, goes, well, he takes after me. And I was like, he doesn't take after you.
No.
You're not his birth mother. There's no DNA shared there. Of course, I got on my little soapbox because of this podcast. But
Oh, you were watching it that recently?
Oh, yeah. Oh, are
all
you
right.
kidding?
No, what was I
not
thinking?
recently. We've done this for 89 weeks.
I'm tired just thinking about that.
All right. Well, maybe we should take a break.
Yeah, and take a nap.
Okay. If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Or consider supporting us on our Patreon page, patreon.com/CutOff Jeans Podcast. Now back to Julie and me.
Okay. I have been getting several requests about, one about the Leeds Method, which I have talked about before, but I'm going to touch on that again. And I'm going to talk about sorting your Ancestry DNA matches using the Leeds Method.
Great.
So that basically means sorting your matches into distinct lines. Theoretically, one for each grandparent.
Okay.
That's how it basically should pan out. Okay?
Gotcha.
So we're using Ancestry's sorting. They have that new system where they have several colors that you can put a dot.
Yeah,
with that
color coded.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for putting the words in my mouth. And you can also name that line.
Is that a game show?
Yes, name that line. Anywho, so here's what we're going to do. So you're going to start with the first relative that is not a parent or a sibling or an immediate or a child. So like your first cousin that's
All right.
there, or someone who's listed as a first cousin. And you're going to click on them. And whatever if you don't know what line they're from or even which family they're from.
You mean like which side of the family?
Yes, which side of the
Okay.
family and which line on that side of the family. I'm gonna talk about what I do.
All right.
I give it the name of the person because that's the first person in that line, and that's
Oh.
the closest person in that line. So I start with that. That's if I don't know. If I do know, then I'll just put the name of the line that it
Gotcha.
is, and then I'll give it a color. If I know it's this is really kind of sexist, but if I know it's on the maternal line, I'll make it a girly color. It's just easier to remember. It just makes more sense. I'm just putting it out there.
Blue or pink? Blue or pink?
Yes.
I know. It's not like you're determining like what you're trying to determine what the baby's going to be. Like, oh, I want the boy to feel free to play with dolls, so I'm not going to give him like guns.
Well, no, I mean, and really the reason that I do it is that it just instantly says, "Oh, pink." That must be the
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. All right. So you're gonna start with adding that to that group. And then you're going to click on shared matches for that match. When you do that, you're going to get a list of all the other people in your DNA that also match that person. So you have that person in common. theoretically, all of you share an ancestor.
All right.
Somewhere up there, or several, somewhere up there. You're just going to go down that list, and you're going to give them all that color. Okay?
Okay.
And until you get to, sometimes I go beyond, depending on how many matches you have. If you're newer, I would say stop at about 100 centimorgans, which is when like second to third cousins.
I thought you were going to say stop at 100 people. I'm like, oh my
No,
God,
that would
that's
be
so
crazy.
many people.
Yeah, that's too many people.
Yeah.
So stop at about 100 centimorgans. Then you're going to click the back button on the upper left-hand side of the page.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't see the new tags when it goes back to the main page, hit refresh and they'll come up for some reason. That's what happens on mine.
Okay.
I have Chrome. I don't know if that's a Chrome thing. Whatever. Okay. So now you're going to go down your list, and the next person in your list matches, or in your matches list that doesn't have a color next to them,
Yes.
you're going to click on them, and you're going to do the same thing over again. You're going to give them a color, and you're going to name it whatever that person's name is, or the name of the line if you know what it is.
And what color are you going to use for this person?
It depends.
It's another shade of pink. It's going to be hot pink.
If I think it's somehow related to that other line, I'll try to keep it in that family.
Yes.
But not too close.
Right.
But I may not know if it is in that. You can change colors back and forth. By the
And
way.
what do you suggest for someone like me who is color challenged?
That's a really good point.
I talked to you about this. I've told you I'm color challenged. It's hard for me to tell. I'm not color blind.
So I would go with darker colors for one side and
Yes.
lighter colors for the
There
other
you go.
side.
Thank you, Julie.
Thinking outside the box.
I know,
That's me.
right?
Okay. So you're going to go to the next one, and you're going to do exactly the same thing. You're going to, after you assign them a color and a name, then you're going to click on the shared matches, and you're going to go down. At this point, you may see that there are some of the other matches that they already have. Some of them already have a color. That's a good clue that is probably also from the same side of the family, maternal or paternal,
Okay.
but going off in a different direction, because that happens. So you're going to do that, and you're going to repeat it. The goal is to get 4 distinct groups, one for each grandparent, as I said, and there'll probably be a couple of subgroups that connect further up. So, you can get as many as 6 to 8 groups sometimes.
Okay. That would be a little confusing to me because I can wrap my head around 4.
Yep.
I've got my grandparents, 2
Yep.
sets of grandparents, but then you get a little more other colors.
Well,
and-
they're offshoots. Remember, the tree goes all the way up, and every time you go up, you're adding way more people in offshoots of that family.
Right.
So that's where the different colors
Right.
come in.
People
And
just need to have fewer children so that my trees don't go off the page.
it's what I'm saying. This really is a family planning podcast. Okay, so that basically is the Leeds method in a nutshell.
Oh.
The difference doing this way and the Leeds method is on a spreadsheet, and you can see everything right in front of you, together. And sometimes visually it helps more, but this is using the same technique. But you can always know who is connected to who very quickly.
I would think that looking at a color and seeing what color matches is easier. Just visually to look at it and say, oh, those are all
Always.
the pink. That's all from that one person.
Precisely.
Right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's the point.
I can't believe I understood that, and I've never used Ancestry other than when I uploaded when I registered my sample that you gave
Yeah,
me.
you have not. You've barely.
I have scratched the
Yes,
surface.
barely scratched the surface.
Yes.
Okay, I want to talk about the gold star function now.
Okay, does
Or
that mean
how-
I'm going to get a gold star on my forehead if I get it right?
Yes, right in the middle.
Okay.
So every match has a little star next to it that if you click on it, it'll turn gold. And that is to signify something for you. You can use it however you like it. For me, I will click that gold star whenever I have successfully built that particular match into a research tree.
All right.
So when there's a gold match there, that means I have put them in the tree somewhere, and you can type in their name and be able to find their particular branch that may or may not go to the main tree yet. But that is a way to know that, I've already figured out who this is. I also usually write in the notes section, what family that is from, or if they are connected to another line, or if I do know how they are related to the target, the client, the person,
Yes.
then I will write first cousin twice removed, whatever it is. But that, for me, is what the gold star means. It means different things to different people.
It's self-defined. In other words, you click on it for whatever you want to use it for.
Precisely.
It doesn't have a function on the Ancestry site that's specific to, like, this means that.
You can use it however it works for you, whatever it means.
It's like
to
your
you.
little filing system, your own filing system.
Yes,
Oh.
that's right. So when you're building your research tree, I want to talk about that a little bit. What you're going to do is you're going to start with one line and build it up and out as far as you go. Usually you'll start with the closest match, assuming you don't know who that is. Mm-hmm. And you're going to just, hopefully they'll have a couple of people in their tree, like their grandparents, so that you can build from there, but you put them in there. I will always start with the match. Now, when I add a match to a tree, I will put their name, their first and last name, in the first box of the title, and then I will put the centimorgan amount in the second box, so that every time I look at that match, it tells me exactly who they are, and right on their icon, it tells me the exact centimorgan match.
How close they are.
Yes,
yeah.
and it also tells me, because the centimorgan match is on there, that they are a match. And then I will also put a DNA symbol on their icon. And then as I figure out how they're connected, I put DNA icons on, basically leading up to the common ancestor.
Okay.
And there is, let me see, what else did and a way to find a floating branch. Next week, actually, I'm going to talk about how actually to build a floating branch, because it's a little bit confusing to people.
Okay.
Even what it is. But so I'll talk about that next week.
Is that something you grab onto when you're drowning? A floating branch?
A floating branch. Yes. Exactly. We don't need to go there at all. So in order to find a match that you've already put into the tree, because all the branches are not connected to each other, when you first open a tree, it's just going to be on the home person. And you're not going to be able to see the other branches because they're not connected yet. So in order to find those people, you are going to click on the tree overview, which is on the upper left-hand side, I think, of your tree. And then under summary, once you get to the tree overview, under summary on the right-hand side, there's a list. At the top of the list, it says people. You're going to click on people. All of a sudden, you have a list of all the people in that tree.
Oh, okay.
Regardless of whether or not they're connected. Now, because it's numerical, it's alphabetical, but it's also numerical. So because I have put numbers, centimorgan numbers, as their last name, all of the numbers are at the top of the list.
I see.
So I know immediately where to find the people that are matches, and I can click on them. It'll take me right to their branch.
You're so smart.
Thanks.
Will you redo my file cabinet? Because I'm so disorganized.
Strangely, no. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Are you this organized in your regular life?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I didn't think so.
No, I am not. This is a mode of survival for me.
Yes.
This has developed over the years of how do I keep these things to where I can look at it and know exactly what it means.
Yeah, no, that's smart. You developed a system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I developed a system.
Yes.
My husband loves systems.
Does he?
Yeah, he's very impressed with it.
Yeah, I'm not so great at it. My desk is filled with, song lyrics I'm working on and other projects and bills.
Well, that's a creative mind at work.
I know, but sometimes you need somebody to put things in order. Mm-hmm. So
that's
apparently
that's when you marry someone who likes systems, like my husband.
See? But he's already married.
That is true, and so are you.
Yes.
Okay, so that's as far as I'm going to go with that. So, guys, I wish I could visually show you this, but at least I've said it, and you can go rewind and listen to it again.
No, I don't know the site at all, and that makes sense. What you're telling me, it makes sense. So,
all right,
good job, Julie.
Thank you so much. Let's take a break.
Thank you for listening to Cut Off Genes with Julie Dixon Jackson and Richard Castle. You can support us by going to patreon.com/Cut Off Genes podcast. Now, back to the program.
Okay, guys, it is story time. This is part 2 of my conversation with Lesley Mitchell from Queensland, Australia.
Yeah, I enjoyed this interview. It's really sad.
It's heartbreaking. And what's really sad about it is it's not an unusual story.
Right.
For that time. Very, very common.
So where were we? Where did we leave off last week?
We left off right about, she was telling us basically she was, what she could remember because she was drugged, about the birth.
When she was in the hospital.
When she was in the hospital.
Right.
Right. And so she's going to tell us a little more about it.
Great. Let's listen.
Okay.
I remember that clear as day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So you can imagine how the rest of it went.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my punishment, I guess.
Were they berating you at all?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 And I was told it was my punishment.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. So take me back again. You received a letter on a Saturday night and read it on the Sunday and met him on a Tuesday. What was that like?
Unbelievable. I phoned my sister and she talked it all through with me, and we decided that I would arrange to meet my other 2 children the next day and tell them.
Mm-hmm. What was their reaction?
Pretty good, actually. My son was funny. Have you heard of Ando? He's a television celebrity in Australia.
No,
and
I haven't.
He does a show called, what it's called, but it's like an in-your-face sort of interview type thing. And my son says, "What, is Ando coming to interview us?" And
oh, my
gosh.
gosh.
No. Do you want him to? And he said, no.
So they took it well and they didn't...
They took it well. The boys get on well. My daughter's taken a little bit longer to come around, but yeah, everyone's fine now.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard for my daughter because she's very emotional, just like me, and I think she knew how strongly it was going to affect me.
Oh, so she was concerned about your
very much
health.
so.
Okay.
Very much so. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, we're all good now.
Yeah. Okay. I recently did an interview with another biological mom, and she told me that when she told her children, well, she didn't say it's because of that, but her children no longer talk to her. Which was shocking to me. Because normally, when I reach out to biological mothers, the first thing often the reason that they're afraid of reuniting is because they're afraid that their other children will judge them. Yeah, and I always tell them that's not a thing. That's normally they're thrilled. I've never, other than that time, experienced a case where that was worth worrying about, because normally the siblings are the most accepting.
Yeah.
I found anyway.
Yeah, so I think probably the way I did a Facebook post. Doesn't everyone do a Facebook post?
Yeah, that's what you do now.
And I introduced him to all of my family, and I basically said, I'm happy and I expect you to be happy for us.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
I think the mum has to lay the groundwork like that.
Yeah.
Because everyone seemed to take that on board. You know, I think they need to know that I'm okay. And
right.
Yep, okay, so this is great.
Oh, interesting. So you're taking the lead and not even letting anybody else have their thoughts about it, because it's not about them anyway.
Well, I'll tell you why, because I have choices now. Mm-hmm. And I choose to have him in my life.
Yeah.
Now I channel my anger talking with other mothers and adoptees.
Yeah.
I've run some groups, and I write letters and just generally advocating for human rights for mothers and adoptees.
There was a national apology in Australia at one point, wasn't there? Let's talk about that. Tell me about it.
There's been many different apologies in Australia. So
That's such a strange concept for me, because they don't do that here.
yeah.
At least that's not put in those terms. Like, oh, if we say we're sorry, does that mean it's okay? We're forgiven? I don't quite understand the concept of it.
It's not sorry if they keep doing the same thing. So
right. So have they?
Yes and no.
Okay. I'm sure it's gotten better. It had to have gotten better.
And it has got better. And Queensland is quite good.
Okay.
We have very few adoptions in Queensland now.
Okay.
It's more about family preservation and like permanent guardianship and that type of thing. Yeah, there's a stakeholder group that meets with our Premier.
Okay.
Our Queensland State Premier.
Oh, that's what we call them, governors.
Yes.
For the Americans listening.
Conversion. Yeah, so they are listening. So there's still things to be done, but they are listening, and these wheels turn slowly, but they are turning. So that's good.
Yeah, I would hope so. When was the first national apology?
The first baby skipper, forced adoption apology, was the national apology. It was the 21st of March in 2013. I've got these things all around my walls in my office. So
oh, okay.
I know when they all are.
Wait, that was the first one?
No, there were some hospital apologies before then.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
From various institutions.
Yeah, the hospital that I was born in had to do an apology, as I recall, the Royal Women's Hospital in Melbourne.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, although my mother never said that she was coerced in any way. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I have friends who were born there, then their mothers say different. But my mother did not experience that. That's what she says anyway. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. And in fact, they let her hold me.
Wow.
Or maybe they didn't let her, but she just kind of like took it upon herself to go get me, I
think. Let me tell you another story. I wasn't supposed to see Shane, well, obviously.
Uh-huh.
But one day I went down to the nursery to see if I could see him.
Okay.
And I got to the window and this woman came shrieking down the hallway, "Get that girl away from that window. She's not to see that baby."
Oh, that gives me chills. It's just so cruel. I can't even fathom it. The Adoption Act of 1983, which is how I got my records, and I found out about them when I went back to visit to Australia. At that point, do you know what brought that about? What change that legislation?
Look, there's been various people who've done a lot of work, and I don't know. Like I've only been woke for 3.5 years.
Oh, right. So when he contacted you, right? That's woke.
I can't remember who's involved with what.
Okay.
With what legislation changes. So our Queensland state apology was on the 27th of November 2012.
Okay.
Now, both of those apologies have anniversaries each year.
Okay.
Which is really good because it just brings it back to front and centre again.
Yeah.
And there's still many people who don't know that there's been an apology.
Okay. I feel like so many people that are not involved in the whole adoption triad just have no clue of what it was like for biological mothers and what it's like to be an adoptee and, grow up in a family you don't feel like you belong to. And it's so funny how they like to have an opinion about it when they really have never experienced any part of it.
Well, that's the hard part for me is, like my son and I, we talk a lot about a lot. And I hope I understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
But it's not my place to talk about his experiences. So I've got to be careful not to do that. But at the same time, I want to highlight what I think has been going on. Mm-hmm. So if I can speak about my side of it and then point people to his blogs and things like that, I do that.
Yeah. That's good. That's good because everybody's experience is different and everybody's experience is valid.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, there's some people who believe they haven't been traumatised and haven't been hurt. Well, that's fine.
Yeah, good for them. Yeah.
Might not be their future, but yep, that's fine.
Yeah, that's exactly
good for them.
That's exactly the case. And the hardest thing for me has been that I was given to a wonderful family, and they're wonderful people. I didn't necessarily mesh with them. But that doesn't make them bad people. I love them.
No.
I loved them, but because I have spoken out about how awkward it's been for me and how hard it was to fit into this family, I've been labeled as an ungrateful adoptee and a bad person who didn't. And that just perpetuates over and over again. And there's nothing you can do about it except for speak out.
What that means to me is that your feelings don't count.
Right. And it means that everything is black and white. And because I needed to find my truth and go and search for where I came from, that negated my connection to my adoptive family, which is not a thing. It's not, there's more than one thing can be true, you know.
Well, just like a mother who has one child, you love that child with all your heart. And then you have another one and your heart just grows bigger.
Exactly.
And then you might have a third one and it just grows bigger again. So a mother can love any number of children equally.
Exactly.
Why can't a child love more than 2 or 4 parents?
Right. Or why is one thing, is you doing one thing dissing those parents? Especially, my parents were very supportive of me. It's other people from outside of the family, or actually some people inside the family.
Actually, none of their business then.
Oh, it's absolutely none of their business. No, absolutely not. However, it's been leveraged into ways to hurt me because of the way they were able to spin stories, if you will. I'll tell you about it someday. So you and Shane have been going to functions and talking as a team?
Oh, yeah. Yes, very much. So at the last state anniversary, we were asked to speak, and the lead up to that meant that we were interviewed by newspaper and also a radio show on the ABC here. And I mean, by the end of that week, we were high because we were able to get all this stuff off our chest. People were listening. It was amazing. I think it's being able to speak out about it.
Yeah.
And being given a platform to do it was awesome.
Yeah.
So I have started writing a book.
I was about to ask you. That is so weird you said that, because that was my next question. I love it.
I don't know if it's ever going to be published. I didn't start it with any intention. The intention at the beginning was it's for Shane.
Oh, okay.
So that he knows as much as I know. And I mean, I know so much more now. I'm going to have to rewrite it.
Yeah.
I'm still remembering little bits and pieces. I think writing is really important. I think
me too.
You've got to get it straight in your own head so you can get it down onto paper.
Yep.
And it encourages you to talk out about it. It encourages other people to talk out about it. And I think that's all healthy. I don't think it's good to keep all this stuff in.
Absolutely not. Thanks for talking to me, and
thank you, darling.
And thank you for everything. Thank you for speaking out and for speaking for biological mothers, and that's so courageous, I think, and really appreciate it. And I hope you do write that book.
Thank you, darling.
All right, thank you so much, Lesley.
Thank you, Lesley.
Your wise words. It was a horrible, horrible time for young women, and I so appreciate that she is out there.
And we don't hear that perspective that often.
You know, we don't, but it's way more common than anybody realizes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, for every adoptee, there's
Yeah.
a birth mother story.
Right. Well, and you know what is interesting? My birth mother, she gave birth in one of the hospitals that were forced to make an apology because a lot of the births happened and the forced adoptions happened in this particular hospital. And I was born there. And my biological mother says that she didn't feel that she felt completely in control the whole time.
She didn't go through the same.
No.
Maybe she was on a good wing.
Maybe. Or maybe she's just in denial.
Well,
like everything else.
Oh, dear. All right.
Okay.
On that case, I'm Richard Castle. I don't want to get into that can of worms. I'm Richard Castle, and you can go to my website, richardcastle.com, where you can learn about the other things I do in my life, such as playing piano and writing songs and writing musicals.
Please.
Or you can follow me on the Twitter at Castle Songs.
I'm Julie Dixon Jackson. You can follow me on the Twitter at Jules Jackson with 2 O's. Follow the podcast on the Twitter at CutOff Jeans Pod. Join the Facebook group, CutOff Jeans Podcast. Answer a question. I'll probably let you in. You don't answer the question? I probably won't. Also, if you are a Patreon member, look for the Facebook patron only group. If you're not my Facebook friend, as I said earlier, I can't invite you because I don't know where you are.
Please join us there.
Join us, won't you? It'll be fun.
What will they find out there, Julie?
They will find out that the truth is in your genes.